Welcome to the first session of module 5, that is spur gear. So this module comprises of two units. One is spur gear, another one is gear train. Okay. So in this session we are going to discuss what is gears, and based on different parameters what are the classifications and the nomenclature of gear trains. So let us see one by one. So gears. So what do you mean by gear or gear drive? So in our daily life or in practical application, so we have seen the application of gears, right? So this gear drive is a positive drive. So what do you mean by positive drive? So positive drive is nothing but so having the physical contact between the driver and the driven. Suppose in this case, in this video, there are two gears, gear A and gear B, right? So gear A is the driver, whereas gear B is the follower or driven, right? So both the driver and the driven having the physical contact, so therefore we call it as a positive drive. And these gear drives are provided when the distance between the driver and the follower is very small. So we have seen different types of drives, right? Gear drive, chain drive, belt drives, rope drives, and etc. So based on, so one of the important parameters is distance between the two shaft. Okay, so in this case you can see this is one shaft, that is a driving shaft. This is another shaft which is follower shaft or driven shaft, right? So the distance between these two shafts is very small. So in that case we go for gear drives. Suppose if the distance between these two shaft is increases or more, then we go for different types of drive like chain drive, belt drive, rope drive, etc. Okay, so these gears are defined as toothed wheels which can transmit power and motion from one shaft to another shaft by means of successive engagement of teeth. Okay, you can see, so it has on the circumference of this uh, element, you can see there are tooths or cuts, right, both on the driver and the driven. So there is a physical engagement takes place between the driver and the driven, so thereby motion transfer takes place from driver to driven. And it is important to note that both gears which are engaged always rotate in the opposite direction, since uh, in this example they are having outside or external teeth. Therefore both driver and driven rotate in the opposite direction. So these gear drives consist of two wheels. The small wheel is called as a pinion and larger wheel is called as a gear. So here in this case, this is the small wheel. We call it as pinion. Pinion. So whereas this is called a bigger gear is called gear. So always small gear is nothing but a pinion, whereas bigger gear is nothing but a gear. So this gear or gear drive has got so many advantages and disadvantages. So let us see the advantages of this gear drive. Since they are having the physical contact, so therefore they are positive drive because there is no slip between the driver and the driven, and it transmit exact velocity ratio. So the loss of power or loss of uh, motion is negligible, very small amount. Therefore whatever the velocity ratio is there, we are going to get the same velocity ratio using this gear drive, and it can transmit large power with a small velocity. So that is another advantage of this gear drive. So using very small velocity we can transmit the large power, and it has high efficiency. So efficiency is high compared to other types of drive system, that is like this one, chain drive, rope drive, belt drive, etc. And one more advantage is it is compact in size. So within small space we can accommodate this type of drive, and it is more reliable than other types of drives. So these are the some of the advantages of this gear drive. So when it comes to disadvantage, because if you take any machine component, there is always advantage as well as disadvantage or limitations. Okay, so the disadvantages of this gear drives are, as special tools or cutter are required for manufacturing of gears, the manufacturing cost of gear is also high, because we have to cut the exact shape of this tooths, right? We have to cut exact shape of this tooths, otherwise there is a loss of efficiency, noisy operation, etc. So therefore we need a special cutter as well as accurate manufacturing is required, therefore cost of manufacturing will be high. So next disadvantage is the manufacturing process of gear is also complicated, because it involve lot of calculation, because in our shaping machine, so we have to do some settings, we have to change the cutter, etc. Therefore some complications are involved during the process of manufacturing, and it requires precise alignment of a shaft. So as I mentioned, uh, more precision is required during the manufacturing, otherwise so it would lead to error in the manufacturing of gears, and it requires lubrication system for smooth operation and long life of a gear teeth. Since there is a physical contact between the driver and the driven, okay, so small amount of friction, wear and tear will be there. So therefore always it need a lubrication system for smooth operation. So that is another disadvantage of this gear drives. So next one is classification of gears. So these gear drives are classified based on four important parameter. That is the position of the shaft. So in the previous slide we have seen the driver shaft and the driven shaft, right? So based on the position of the shafts, they are majorly classified into four types. First one is parallel shaft axis gears. So in this case, the both driver and the driven shafts are parallel to each other. In the second case, that is intersecting shaft axis gears. So driver and the driven shaft axis are intersecting at one particular point. Next one, perpendicular shaft axis gears. So in this case what happens, the driver shaft axis and the driven shaft axis are perpendicular to each other. Next one, non-perpendicular shaft axis gears. So here the shaft axis, that is driver and the driven shaft axis, are non-perpendicular, they are not perpendicular. So now again, based on this parallel shaft axis, there are five important types of gears. One is spur gears, helical gears, herringbone gears, rack and pinion, and internal gears. So under intersecting shaft axis, one important type is bevel gears. Under perpendicular shaft axis gear is worm gear. And in the last type of gear, that is non-perpendicular shaft axis gears, important type is spiral gears. Okay, so the spur gear, helical gear, herringbone gears, rack and pinion, internal gears, or belongs to the parallel shaft axis gears. So in the next slides we are going to discuss one by one. So how exactly these different types of gears are used, where exactly used, what are the advantage, disadvantage, etc. we are going to discuss in the next slides. So under parallel shaft axis gear, first important type is spur gear. So what do you mean by spur gear, or where it is being used? So this is nothing but a spur gear. You can see in the video. So this is nothing but a spur gear. So here tooths are cut parallel to the axis of the shaft. Tooths are cut parallel to the axis of the shaft. So this is the axis of the shaft, right? So parallel to this, the tooths are cut. Therefore, they are called spur gears. Okay. So spur gears are usually used to transmit motion between two parallel axis shaft, and they are the simplest of all the types of gears and easiest in production compared to other types of gears. Uh, the teeth of the spur gears are cut along the periphery and parallel to the axis of gear, as I mentioned in the first point. The spur gears can be made of different materials like steel, brass and other metals, and even plastic gears also there. Then what are the advantage and disadvantage of this spur gears? So these spur gears are easy to manufacture because there is no curvilinear in the teeth. Teeth are parallel to the axis of the shaft. Therefore, it becomes easy for the manufacturing, and they are made in variety of size. Uh, the size may vary from 25 mm to several centimeter in diameter. And these gears are less expensive because manufacturing is easy, therefore they are very less expensive, and efficiency of spur gear is high. Efficiency of spur gear is high compared to other types of gear. Around 98% of efficiency it is having. Then what are its disadvantage or limitations? So these spur gears are not used for high speed application. So why they are not used for high speed application? Because you can see in the video there is a direct impact takes place between the driver and driven teeth. You can see when it is engaging with the opposite gears, there is a impact load, therefore noisy operation. So it is a noisy operation. Noisy operation is also one of the limitations of this spur gear, and we can't use it for high speed application. Okay. Then what is the application of this spur gear? So these spur gears are commonly used in machine tool, gearbox, automobile gearbox, and wristwatches, wall clock, etc. So these are the applications of spur gears. So next type of gear is helical gears. So helical gears are nothing but in the video you can see, or in the animation you can see helical gear. So there is a modified, it is a modified form of a spur gear. So here teeth are not cut parallel to the axis of the shaft. There is a small inclination. Okay, so here in the engagement and disengagement point you can see, so here it is engaged at this point and disengaged at another point. So in order to avoid the direct impact and noisy operation, these helical gears are made. Therefore it is a modified form of a spur gear. So helical gears are similar to the spur gears, but its teeth are cut at an angle with the axis of rotation of the gear. And these helical gears can transmit motion from one shaft to another shaft, which are parallel to each other. The helix angle of gear and pinion are same in magnitude, but of different hands. For example, right hand pinion measures with the left hand gear. Okay, so right hand pinion measures with the left hand gear. Then what are its advantage and limitations? So advantages of this helical gear is it operate more quietly and smoothly compared to the spur gears, because they are not parallel to the axis of the shaft. Then teeth of helical gears are stronger than the spur gear teeth. Efficiency of helical gear is uh, is almost equal to the efficiency of the spur gear, and these gears are suitable for high speed applications. Okay, these types of gears are suitable for high speed application. Next, so disadvantages. So what are its disadvantages? So helical gears are difficult to manufacture as compared to the spur gears because it involves some angular cutting of the teeth. So therefore, it becomes difficult in order to manufacture when it compares to the spur gear. Then this helical gear exerts an end thrust which is absorbed by the thrust bearing, because in the machine point you can see, so it touches the opposite gear at single point, therefore there will be a end thrust takes place, and this thrust transfer to the bearings. And in helical gears the friction, heat generation and wear is high, because of this end thrust that transfers across the gears. So these gears are more expensive than the spur gears because manufacturing cost increases. So in order to avoid the more friction and wear, we need a lot of lubrication. So therefore it becomes expensive compared to the spur gear. Then what are its application? So helical gears are commonly used in high speed automobile gearbox, machine tool, gearbox, rolling mills, steam and gas turbines and other high speed applications. So next one is herringbone gears. So what do you mean by herringear bones? What is the difference between the previous, that is helical gears and herringbone gears? So this herringbone gears looks like two single helical gears, right? You can see. So it looks like two single helical gears, right? So one right hand and other left hand placed side by side. In the video you can see one right hand and another left hand placed side by side. So this gear reduces the end thrust acting on the thrust bearing. So in the previous type of gear, helical gear, we have discussed what is end thrust. Right, in order to overcome that end thrust, these herringbone gears are introduced. And these gears are used to transmit motion from one shaft to another shaft, which are parallel to each other. And herringbone bores are also called as double helical gears because uh, it looks like a combination of two helical gears. Then what are its advantages? Herringbone gears operate more quietly and smoothly, and the load carrying capacity of these gears are high, and this gear reduces the end thrust on the bearings, and efficiency of these gears is high, which is almost equal to the spur gear. And when it comes to limitations or disadvantages, it is difficult to manufacture because we have a combination of two helical gears, therefore it is difficult to manufacture, and these are more expensive than the spur and helical gears. Machining of teeth of these gears is very difficult. Okay, so we need a special attention and a special type of cutter. Then what are its application? So herringbone gears are used in high speed applications and especially in heavy duty machineries. So in heavy duty machineries you always find this herringbone gears. So next one is rack and pinion. So this rack and pinion gears you might have seen in lathe machine, right? So to move the carrier blocks, we use this type of gears. So here, this is nothing but a rack. This is nothing but a rack, and this is pinion. Okay, this is called rack and this is called pinion. Then what is rack? So this rack is a straight gear which has no curvature, and it represent a gear of infinity radius. Okay, so rack is a straight gear which has no curvature and it represent a gear of infinite radius. And this rack gears may have either straight or helical teeth. So depending on the application, we go for either straight teeth or helical teeth. During the operation, a rack gear meshes with a pinion and convert rotary motion of pinion into reciprocating motion of a rack, or vice versa. Okay, so when it comes to application, so this rack and pinion arrangement are used in feeding mechanism, reciprocating drives, etc. They are also used in gauges and small equipments and lathe, milling, drilling, and other machine tools. So next one is internal gears. So what do you mean by internal gears? So here which is internal gear and which is external gear? See, this is the internal gear. This is internal gear, whereas this is external gear, right? So we call this one as a gear, and this has a pinion, right? And this is a spur gear, right? This is a spur gear which is a pinion, whereas this is also spur gear which is a act as a gear. Okay, so and it is having internal tooth, right? It is having internal tooth, whereas it is having external tooth. So whatever the different types of gear we have discussed till now, they are having the external gears, or having the tooth on their periphery or external surfaces, but internal gears have teeth on their inner surface, which may be spur gear or which may be helical gear, etc. So, and it is important to note that in internal gears both wheels rotate in the same direction. Suppose let us consider this pinion as a driver. So it is rotating in the clockwise direction, right? In the video it is rotating in clockwise direction. So whereas the outer wheel is also rotating in the same direction. So that is the one of the property of this internal gear. So whereas in the external gear, in the all previous cases we have seen, suppose if this rotating in clockwise direction, whereas it rotate in the opposite direction in the external gears. Okay, so then what are its advantages? So as the centers of the gears are closer together, less space is required. Okay, suppose if the same two gears, if I mesh outside, see these are the space which is required to uh, install, whereas here both are there inside one another or close together, therefore less space is required. That is one of the advantage of this internal gear. During the motion there is less friction between the teeth. So here there is a less friction between the teeth because it is having internal teeth and it is having external teeth. Okay, the direct impact as like in the external gears is very less. Then efficiency of this gears is also high. Then application, so where it is used, so internal gears are commonly used in uh, clutches, heavy vehicle drives, etc. Next, so intersecting shaft axis gears. So in that, first one is bevel gear. So why it is called intersecting shaft axis gear? See, when I consider the axis of this pinion, so this is the axis, right? Then axis of this bigger gear or bull gear is like this. So they are intersecting at one particular point, right? So therefore they are called intersecting shaft axis gear. because axis of both driver and driven is going to intersect at one particular point. Therefore, they are called intersecting shaft axis gears. Okay. For transmitting the motion between two intersecting shafts or shafts at a desired angle, bevel gears are commonly used. The surface of the bevel gear is like a frustum of a cone, right? And its size decreases towards the apex of a cone. The teeth of bevel gear are cut so that they radiate from the apex of cone and lie on the conical surface. Generally, these bevel gears are used when two shafts are at right angle to each other, but it can be used for any desired shaft angle. These bevel gears are available with straight or helical or different types of teeth. So next one, perpendicular shaft axis gears. So why it is called perpendicular shaft axis gears? Because see, this is the axis of the gear. This is the axis of the gear, and this is the axis of a worm. So they are perpendicular to each other, right? They are perpendicular to each other. Therefore, they are called perpendicular shaft axis gears. So what is this worm gear? For transmitting the motion between the two non-intersecting and perpendicular shaft, worm and worm gears are used. So this is called worm, whereas this is called worm gear. So in worm and worm gears, uh, worm is more or less similar to screw, having single or multiple start threads, which forms the tooth of the worm. So worm gear is a helical gear with a concave face to accommodate a portion of the worm periphery. This worm drives a worm gear or worm wheel while transmitting the motion, and in this type of gear the worm and worm gear have same hand. The worm and worm gears are used when large speed reduction ratio is required from one shaft to the another shaft. The important property of this type of gear is it is non-reversible, so we can't reverse this type of gears. It means that worm is always driver and worm gear is driven or follower. Okay, so worm gear cannot drive the worm. Then what are its advantages and limitations? So advantage of this worm and worm gear is worm gears are compact than the spur, helical and bevel gears. They can be used for high reduction ratio. So these gears are self-locking or non-reversible, and the operation of this worm gear is silent and smooth compared to the other types of gear. Then what are its limitations? The efficiency of worm gear is less. During the operation, more heat is generated because high reduction ratio is there. Hence, effective cooling is required. Worm gears are more expensive than all gears. So worm gears are difficult to manufacture. So these are the limitations of worm and worm gears. Then where it is used, what are its application? So because of self-locking or non-reversible property, worm gears are commonly used in steering mechanism, hoisting dives, devices, cranes, dam gates, lifts, etc. They are also used in musical instruments like guitar for locking the strings. Okay. Then the non-perpendicular shaft axis gears. So in that the most important type of a gear is a spiral gear, are also called as a spiral bevel gear. Spiral gear is also called as spiral bevel gear. So this in this spiral bevel gear, the tooths are formed at an angle with respect to its axis. Spiral bevel gears are also used for transmitting power between intersecting shafts. Hypod bevel gears are similar to this spiral gears, and the application. So what are its application? So in differential gear drive system, we use these spiral bevel gears. What are its advantages? So it can transmit the motion between two intersecting shaft, and they are available in various sizes. When it is running at high speeds, there is a less noise, so that's why it has got a more application. As compared to spur and helical gears, less space is required. Efficiency of this gear is high. Then what are its limitations? So as like other gears, manufacturing is difficult, and they are more expensive than the spur and helical gears. So next one, terminologies used in gears. So first one is pitch circle. So what do you mean by pitch circle? So let us consider a, a part of a gear. So we consider two teeth of a gear. So using this, we are going to explain the different terminologies used in the gear. So what do you mean by pitch circle? So pitch circle is nothing but it is not the actual circle. It is an imaginary circle which by pure rolling action takes place and would give the same motion as that of the actual gear. So in the figure you can see this circle, imaginary circle, is nothing but a pitch circle. Okay, this imaginary circle is nothing but a pitch circle. uh, if you see the physical gear, you won't see this circle. It is an imaginary circle, so wherein which pure rolling action takes place. Okay, so this is the first one. Next one, pitch circle diameter. So what do you mean by pitch circle diameter? So diameter of this pitch circle is nothing but a pitch circle diameter. So usually we specify the gear size using pitch circle diameter. Next one, pitch point. So what do you mean by pitch point? So it is the common point of contact between the two pitch circle. Suppose this is the driver, this is the driver, this is the follower. Okay, so they are meshing at this point. So what happens? This is the pitch circle. This green color shows the pitch circle. So there is a common point of contact between the two pitch circle takes place at this point. This is nothing but a pitch point. So the contact between the two pitch circle takes place at a one point, which is nothing but a pitch point. Next one, circular pitch. So what do you mean by circular pitch? So here circular pitch is nothing but, so it is the distance measured along the circumference of the pitch circle from a point on one teeth to a corresponding point on the adjacent teeth, and it is denoted by PC. Mathematically it can be written as PC is equals to pi into D divided by T. So D represents the diameter of the pitch circle, T represents the number of teeth on a wheel. Okay, so here you can see this distance is nothing but a pitch circle, that is nothing but distance measured on the circumference of the pitch circle from one point on one teeth to the corresponding point on the next teeth or neighbor teeth. This distance is nothing but a circular pitch. It is denoted by PC. Formula is pi d by t. Next one, diametral pitch. So it is the number of teeth per unit length of a pitch circle diameter. So if I consider a unit length of pitch circle diameter, so how many number of teeth we are going to obtain, which is nothing but a diametral pitch. So mathematically diametral pitch can be written as PD is equals to T by D. So here we know that PC is equals to pi D by T, therefore T by D can be written as pi by PC. T is the number of teeth whereas D is the pitch circle diameter. Next, module. So what do you mean by module? So it is the length of the pitch circle diameter per tooth. Length of the pitch circle diameter per tooth, or the ratio of pitch circle diameter to the number of tooth. So mathematically it can be written as M is equals to D by T, which represent the module. So next one, addendum. So what do you mean by addendum? So it is the radial distance of a tooth from the pitch circle to the top of the tooth. See, this is the top of the tooth, okay, and this is the pitch circle. So this radial height or distance, this radial height or distance represent the addendum. Next one, dedendum. So it is also a radial height measured from pitch circle to the bottom of the tooth. Okay, so the radial height measured from pitch circle to the bottom of the tooth. Then addendum circle, the circle which is passing through the top of the teeth and it is concentric with the pitch circle. See, this is called addendum circle, the circle which is passing through the top of the teeth. Next, dedendum circle. So it is the circle which is passing through the bottom of the teeth, and it is also called as a root circle. Sometimes we call it as a root circle. So next one, face. So what do you mean by face? So it is the part of the uh, surface of the tooth which is lying above the pitch circle. You can see this part, we call it as a face, because this is the part of the tooth which is lying above the pitch circle. Similarly, we have a flank which is below the face. Therefore, this is also part of the tooth surface which is lying below the pitch circle. Next one, clearance. What do you mean by clearance? The difference, radial height difference between the addendum dedendum is nothing but the clearance, because the length of or height of addendum and dedendum are not similar. Okay, so therefore there is always a difference between this radial height between addendum and dedendum. That difference is nothing but a clearance. Here you can see the clearance. Next, profile. So this is nothing but a profile of a teeth. Okay, the curve forming the face and flank. This curve, the curve forming the face and flank. This curve is nothing but a profile. Next one, top land. See, this is called the top land. It is the surface of the top of the tooth. So next one, path of contact. So what do you mean by path of contact? So it is the path traced by the point of contact of two teeth from the beginning to the end of the engagement. So if you see this arrow, see, this is beginning and this is end of the engagement. So this path is nothing but a path of contact. Okay, so the path traced by the point of contact. See, this is point of contact between the two teeth from the beginning of engagement to the end of the engagement. So whatever the path traced by this point of contact from beginning of engagement to the end of the engagement is nothing but a path of contact. So this path of contact consists of again two important points. One is path of approach or arc of approach and path of recess. Okay, So what happens, suppose, so here beginning of engagement takes place, so this is disengagement of a contact takes place, and this is the pitch point. Okay, so this total length is nothing but path of contact. Path of contact. So out of this path of contact, so there are two portions, right? One is arc of contact, arc of approach, or path of approach. That is, it is the portion of the path of contact from beginning of engagement to the pitch point. This is called pitch point. I will call it as PP, which represent pitch point. So this distance is nothing but arc of approach. Arc of approach. So then what is arc of a recess? So it is the portion of path of contact. Okay, so from the pitch point to the end of engagement of the teeth. This distance is nothing but arc of recess. Next one, pressure angle. So what do you mean by pressure angle? See in the figure you can see this is nothing but a pressure angle alpha. The angle between the common normal at the point of contact and the common tangent at the pitch point is nothing but a pressure angle. So here in order to represent the pressure angle we should know what is common normal and a tangent line. So here this is nothing but common normal. This is normal, and this is nothing but tangent. Angle made by this common normal and common tangent drawn at this pitch point is nothing but a pressure angle, and usually this pressure angle 14.5 degree or 20 degree. Next one, backlash. So it is the difference between the thickness of the tooth and width of the tooth space at a pitch circle. Okay, so this is a difference between the tooth space and the tooth thickness. So it is measured along the pitch circle. So theoretically this backlash should be 0, but in actual practice some backlash must be allowed to prevent the jamming or locking of the teeth due to the tooth errors and external expansion. So what happens when the temperature increases during the operation? There may be a slight expansion. Therefore we should provide some space for lubrication as well as expansion. Otherwise the gears may jam or stuck during the operation. Next, so gear ratio. So gear ratio is nothing but the number of it is the ratio of number of teeth in the gear to the number of teeth in the pinion. Okay, so mathematically can be written as G is equals to G is the gear ratio, capital T by small t. Capital T represents the number of teeth on gear, small t represents the number of teeth on pinion. Then one velocity ratio. So velocity ratio is nothing but the ratio of angular velocity of the follower or driven to the angular velocity of the driving gear. So mathematically we represent the velocity ratio is equals to omega 2 by omega 1. So angular velocity of a driven to the angular velocity of driver. So it also can be written as n2 by n1 because we know that omega can be written as 2 pi n by 60, correct? Therefore, so omega 1 is nothing but n1, omega 2 is nothing but it becomes n2. Therefore, remaining terms get cancelled. So remaining n2 by n1. Then it can also be written as d1 by d2 because we know that linear velocities, linear velocity is nothing but pi d n, correct? pi dn. So therefore pi d1 n1 is equals to pi d2 n2. So therefore pi get cancelled. d1 by d2 is equals to n2 by n1. So n2 by n1 can be written as d1 by d2. Similarly, it also can be written as t1 by t2, because we know that circular pitch formula Pc is equals to pi d by t, correct? So therefore for driver we can write pi d1 by t1, for driven we can write pi d2 by t2. Therefore wherever d1 and d2 are there we can write t2 by t1, because pi get cancelled.